reason that people don't trust the government. And there's a lot of noise about the government monitoring, and that they do monitor, and frankly, I'm grateful that they monitor. But should people be fearful overall that the government is monitoring, or grateful?
This should be a combination of gratitude and concern. Look, when you're fighting terrorism, obviously all things national security need to take precedence, but there is also a really big issue here, and the issue is privacy. And there is a line between where we have to worry about national security encroaching upon privacy of individuals. We saw it in the Apple versus the FBI case. We've seen it in the Amazon Echo case, where the police got hold of an Echo and they were asking for more information from Amazon because they thought that this device might have information about a murder. And we see it every day with a fight going on in Congress and in the executive branch of how far should government agencies, should the NSA go in terms of monitoring what consumers are doing? How much data should they be collecting? Just like when we talk about encryption versus backdoors. The reason why we're in the mess we're in worldwide is because there has been insufficient encryption. And now that companies are doing everything they can to try to better encrypt things, you have law enforcement saying, wait a minute, you're crawling into our territory and you're making it more difficult for us to do investigations.
So as a consumer, again, what can I do to protect myself? The government's going to do what the government's going to do. I can't control it. And frankly, if I'm not doing anything wrong, I want them to keep me safe. I have nothing to hide from the government. They can know about my soccer mom emails. But what can people or should people do, or what should they worry about, or should they simply trust that the government is doing what they can?
I think what we really need to do is there has to be more discussion. There has to be a real legislative consensus about this. I mean, Apple's argument is, don't tell me what you're doing by way of me having to read an article in the New York Times. Let's have an open debate about this. I mean, when the government is using a 227-year-old statute to get information on a new electronic device that clearly our founders were not thinking about, we've got a way to go here. So there is room for debate. It's important that we have a debate, but consumers have to be mindful of the fact that things that we have thought were private, in the old days we thought phone calls were private, turned out they weren't quite as private as we thought. People had this vision that their email is private. And when we see what happened with Sony and with Podesta and the Democratic National Committee, we can see that these things may not stay private. So the key thing to keep in mind is when you put something in an email, you have to assume that one day it could end up as the equivalent of skywriting.
So that's so true. So people, it's almost like there's nothing they can do, because we have to assume that whatever we put online, in a phone call, anywhere, is going to be blasted all over the place. Is there anything that they can and should do specifically?
Well, I think people have to be very careful about what they say and where they say it. It's better to say it on a phone than in an email. And it is not great to say it on social networking sites. You know, people have this unquenchable thirst to throw every possible morsel of their lives out there for everyone in the world to see. And they think it's just their friends. But what they don't know is there are people there that may not be their friends. There are people that are watching that may be watching specifically to see if they can catch them at something. So that's why it's so important to be circumspect about this. Even kids posting photographs online of fun parties and fun things they've done. This could end up being something that a recruiter could look at, that a university admissions official could look at, that someone who is in the HR department where they work could look at when they're being reviewed. So just remember, things have consequences. There is no right to be forgotten button out there. You cannot automatically delete things. And even though Europe is moving more toward that, the U.S. is not.
All right, let's go back to the government for 1 second.
Sure.
So, you know, absolutely understand social media. The kids in college and my girls were very careful not to have any red Solo cups on any photos when they were in high school. As far as the government, people think that it's just me. Like, why is the government watching me? But the truth is that everybody is being watched by the government. It doesn't matter who you are. Is that true?
No, everybody's being watched because the truth is they don't know. And there was a proposal that was floated by the Treasury Department a couple of years ago, where they were saying that there is this list. It's called FinCEN, and what this list does is it's any suspicious activity that a bank picks up. And in some cases, it could be that you wrote a check for too much money for cash. Now, you could have done it simply because you wanted to pay a contractor and you were getting a better deal. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, if they combine that list, for instance, with that which intelligence agencies see, all of a sudden, your cashed check to a contractor could put you in as a target for the Central Intelligence Agency. And these are the unintended consequences of things that are done, laws that are passed, when they're trying to figure out how to deal with terrorism, but yet it could sweep up an awful lot of people because there is this macro view of what the government should be doing.
All right. Bottom line on the government monitoring, necessary evil, and you have to be careful and assume that whatever you're doing, you're being monitored too.
Correct.
Thanks so much. You can get Adam's book swiped at bottomlinestore.com. And do that social thing, because this information is so important. And as Adam said, we're all in this together. So share this video, let your friends know about Adam's good work, and again, come to our site.